Good day from sunny South Florida. Today we're going to look at some data points that we look at every month for target market data in the Miami Beach real estate market. This includes the municipalities of Miami Beach, Surfside, Bal Harbour, Bay Harbor Islands, and Fisher Island. We break this data down into two categories, condominiums and single-family homes. On the last day of each month, we pull all active listings for sales, all sales that had closed within the previous 90 days of that date, and all listings that expired unsold within the previous 90 days of that date. Each month, we're looking for developing trends or inflection points where a trend is reversed. Active inventory represents supply, which is a key driver of economics, the other being demand. In this case, we can see demand in closed sales contrasted with expired listings. Today, let's focus on the condominium data. And looking for a baseline to put into context the crazy post-COVID market, we go back to a low point in active condos listed for sale at 1,099 in May of 2022. That was not a normal market, and you see some real surprising figures when you take the high demand in relation to that low supply. For example, that same month, you had 126.3% of active inventory as a closed sale. What that means, at that pace of closed sales, there was not enough active inventory or supply hitting the market to keep up with demand, or in that case, closed sales. These laws of supply and demand pushed prices up substantially. We've been doing this for over 20 years and never saw such a market. It was not the norm. So let's get to more relevant data in today's market, although we still need to go back to a baseline for context. So looking at July of 2024, you'll see 2019 active condos for sale. Then you'll notice a consistent trend of increasing inventory month after month, all the way up until April of 2025, where inventory climbed to 2,788 active condos listed for sale. Then we see a consistent trend of decreasing inventory, where it got down to 2,448 active condos listed for sale in September of 2025. But this month we showed an uptick by 15 more condos listed for sale. That number hit 2,463. So we have an inflection point, but it's not yet a trend, so let's keep an eye on that supply next month. Now let's look at demand in relation to supply by taking the actual condominium closed sales in the previous 90 days and dividing it by the actual inventory on that same last day of the month. When taken as a percentage for that same baseline July 2024 data set we used, you get 32.39% of active inventory became a closed sale. Over time, the figure fluctuates and eventually settled at a low of 13.59% of active inventory became a closed sale in February of 2025. Then some more fluctuations, and your most recent reading in October 2025 is 16.89% of active inventory became a closed sale. The other side of demand is when a listing expires unsold, sticking with the same theme, and if you take it as a percentage of active condos for sale on that same date when data is pulled, in that July 2024 data set, you had a 17.24% chance your listing would expire unsold versus a 32.39% chance your listing would become a closed sale. So again, we're just kind of saying the data in a different way. And when you say it this way, it just kind of helps to put it in perspective what it is we're looking at. So let's look at that February 2025 data set where you had a 15.1% chance your listing would expire unsold versus a 13.59% chance your listing would become a closed sale. The most recent data set, October 2025, you had a 17.3% chance your listing would expire unsold versus a 16.89% chance your listing would become a closed sale. These data points, when looked at together, they paint a really good picture of the supply and demand at a snapshot in time, which allows you to compare apples to apples, looking for trend lines and inflection points. Supply and demand determine price. So digging into this data each month is the best way to keep track of this hyperlocal market and the direction it is headed. We love looking at real market data for trend lines to give our customers a heads up on market direction. A seller would see this data one way and a buyer the other. So there is no right answer here. Rather, getting an idea if it is more of a seller's market or more of a buyer's market and which way it may or may not be headed so consumers can make informed decisions. If you'd like to review this data in more detail or schedule a conversation where we can discuss it in more detail, please reach out anytime. Thank you so much.